We are January 25th, 2022. Roll call, please, Pat.
Sheriff Vermont.
Here.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Dr. Joseph.
Here.
John Hurd.
Present.
Riley Marshall.
Here.
Brent Jordan.
Present.
Jeff Pope.
Present. If you guys please rise and join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. There's one small amendment to the agenda. Item number 5 of the consent agenda we needed to pull off. So with that exception, are there any other changes to the agenda proposed?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as presented with the amendment that F5 be removed.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sherrick. Thank you, Derek. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that passes. All right. Thank you very much. First up, celebrations. So it's my pleasure to share here the Missouri Classroom Hero. Lander Chevrolet and KOAM TV have joined forces to recognize area teachers who make a difference in their community. Each month, these sponsors select a classroom hero nominated by a peer, parent, or student. Joplin School's own Brad Douglas, TV production and broadcasting teacher, was selected as the November Missouri Classroom Hero, winning $250 for himself and $250 for his classroom. Mr. Douglas later won the semester online competition for Missouri Classroom Hero with over 8,000 votes. The semester winnings totaled $2,500 and were divided between the teacher and his classroom. The parents' nomination letter includes the following insight. Mr. Douglas enters his students in regional competitions and he supports them with technical expertise, kindness, and wise mentorship. Many of his students have gone on to collegiate or professional careers in the media field because they were able to develop such a sound foundation and love of the art through his amazing effort. Congratulations, Brad. Good job. I know I was the last night, you could vote 5 times, and so I was voting every night before I went to sleep or my son wouldn't let me. Next up, the Joplin High School Constitution Team. The JHS Constitution Team was recognized during the Comiskey Classic for its second place finish at the state competition, sponsored by the Missouri Bar. Keenan Cortez, Joplin Mayor Pro Tem, awarded students their awards. The 2021 JHS Constitution team members are Marina Crouch, Nicholas Horton, Caleb Lewis, Jermaine Laum, Kim Wynn, Christina Post, Kate Rutledge, Wyatt Satterley, Jack Stanley, and Coach Mr. Will Kezkamefi. The Joplin High School Constitution team has a rich legacy of competition-winning teams, hardworking students, and community support. The Constitution team was established and coached by Barbara Arnold during her tenure with Joplin Schools. So congratulations, guys. Okay, middle school scientist. North Middle School recently held its annual science fair competition. Students submitted written reports and then presented them for their advanced science class. Finalists were selected to present their projects before a panel of professors from Pittsburgh State. Annabelle Rutledge's project titled How Does Sight Affect One's Opinion of Food was the winner for 8th grade. Liam Jones was the winner of 6th grade with his project on identifying the atomic fingerprint of elements with spectrometry. Congratulations, guys. All right, thank you. Next up, Board Policy Committee. An update from the committee, anybody?
I can give one.
Oh, great.
So we met on the 12th, January 12th, and essentially we're just kind of putting into policy what we already do in the 3 policies that are presented for first reading. The first one's about school board elections. There's already a policy in place, but MSBA gave us a recommendation on a change. So that's there for that. The second one deals with political campaigns. We already have policies in place. We already do that, but there's a little bit of a change, but mostly school districts and board members cannot allocate money for either campaigns or whether it's for people running for an open spot or for something that the district might put out, like a bond issue, that type of thing. So something we already do, but there's just another policy for that. And then the last one There's a new behavioral risk assessment. We already have a program like that. Saketta's been in charge of that for years. But schools that have that or are thinking about employing that, MSBA has recommended a policy that kind of umbrellas that program. So those are for you for first reading.
Thank you. All right, the board data committee.
Yeah, we met, I guess, a week or so ago. A couple things I'd call out on the positives is the kindergarten, first grades continuing to show progress. I think that's very important. We had a really good discussion on how that is so important as that foundational learning for the kids as they start their educational careers. So great to see that. Our attendance rates have climbed up a little bit from where they were. They're still lagging behind 2019, I think by about 1.5% or so, if I recall that. And our high school passing rates are the highest they've been in 3 years. So that's all really on the good side. A lot of work still to be done as we're digging through some of the second through eighth grade data. And, a couple numbers that I will call out is that, for our group of students of 3,500 tested in language, we have 43% that are below average. That's concerning. In reading, it's 45% is below average. Math is 49% below average. And science is 38% below average. And that's a span of about 3,500 kids that we're talking about. But that should raise a concern for all of us that we've got, literally half of those kids almost that are below average. So we have some work to do. And for myself, I find it very interesting on the data side because we know that if they're below average coming out of eighth grade, that normally doesn't get better in the high school. And so, what we talked about is how do we invest more in those formative years so they have some of that core basis of knowledge and that we get our kids average or above. So not only can they succeed, but they can excel in high school and beyond. I think that's real important that we continue to look at that beginning side of the education to help continue to improve on that side of it. I appreciate all the data you pulled together, Sarah, because that's a lot of information. So thank you for that.
And there were 56 slides of data. So for those of us that like that, it was great.
Full course meal.
There you go. All right, Board Safety and Security Committee.
Yeah, the Safety and Security Committee met last week, and we had, as we typically do, just a full agenda of items to discuss. Student safety and everyone's safety is foremost an issue for our district that we are always working on and spending a lot of resources on. We reviewed the Versatran program for IPDAS for the buses. We reviewed our additional crosswalk near Joplin High School. We've got some kids who like to cross in the middle of the street. We need to knock that stuff off. There's teachers here, tell them to cut it out. Working on it, right? Makes me very upset. Risk Management Safety Committee report. We also, the safety audit continues in progress. Jim Hounshell is leader. He leads on that. He gives us great reports at most of our meetings. Visitor management update in the elementary and middle schools and usage. Tornado season, safe room preps. CPR for students and staff. We talked about those issues, particularly in the high school and in all schools. So we had a full agenda and lots of things to talk about. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Sure, I have a question. It probably didn't come up in the meeting,
Yes,
but
sir.
so a few years ago, there was a concerted effort to funnel all traffic for like high school kids, probably middle school, maybe elementary, into one door, a centrally located door. And then I think with COVID, we opened up other ports of entry to keep kids safe. And I'm just wondering, for security reasons, are we still there? Do you know? Or are we back to a single entry port for big building? Does that come up? Is it?
Eric, can you tell us? I assumed we had a single port of entry.
That has not come up. Steve Reed's here with asking, but what I see at the high school, for instance, is the students coming in Franklin Tech at their main entrance, and as well Joplin High School in the mornings, and then also I believe most of the time over in the Performing Arts Center area, and as well as the gym. But once school closes, school opens, and it's in procession, then those other alternative doors are closed, and it's just the main interest of JHS and FTC. And the other buildings, I'm not aware of any other, entrances that they're using other than trying to keep parents when they bring their kids to school in the same locations as well as the bus entrance. But at this point right now.
Is that, so as far as the directive, is that something that we want, is a single entry?
I
or-
think what we'd like to be is where we are in the typical period of time right now because of where we're at in the pandemic and everything else, just using the main doors we would typically use in a normal setting. But I would have to check with the principals. We're going to see the principals tomorrow to see if I can report back if necessary.
I'd be curious
If some of them-
to know where we're at. Yeah.
we can do
Awesome.
that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sharon.
All right. Next up, we've got the superintendent's data report.
Yes, and I see Aaron back there with Dave, so we're going to get a construction update.
Yes.
Is that coming with you?
Guess he's staying back there. That's okay. Okay, real quick tonight, guys. So advance the slide, please. I guess I've got it. Okay, real quick on the update. We have our second floor elevated deck slab pour this Thursday. Starts at 2 a.m., so everybody's welcome to join if you want to.
I may be up.
Probably be there. So it's going to take us roughly 3.5, 4 hours to get that all poured out. It's all pumped, obviously. And that second floor is over area B, which is essentially the area that we started our structural steel. We haven't progressed into area A yet with structural steel, so we're focusing all on area B. Precast. So we've done the precast for the shelter. The precast for the gym is going to start on February 14th. We anticipate roughly a week there. And the whole reason why we haven't completed the gym, we could have a month ago. We didn't want those big, tall those big, tall panels without joist girders actually connecting them. It's not good to brace without something inside completing the system. So speaking of joist girders, our joists arrive finally on, actually that's been improved from what you see there. It's 2/17. So February 17th, that's actually a Thursday. We'll start installing bar joists right away, obviously on the gym. We've got the decking already on site, so we can slap the decking right on, and we actually start roofing on March 1st, which is excellent. These are just some current photos. This was taken yesterday. Photo on the left is of your kitchen area, kitchen and dock. A lot of the curb and gutter has been completed. Bus loop curb and gutter has been completed, area on the right. We have left off the curb and gutter in the parking lot area just because we've got a lot of machines running around and the fear of destroying curb and gutter is pretty high. So that is a view from the south and west, looking more north and east. This is right on the edge of your gym area, looking back towards the south and east. More of the kitchen area. You can't really see it in this photo, but the photo to the left, there is so much plumbing and electrical and coordination that goes into a kitchen. It's pretty amazing, and no one ever really sees it. It's all underground. So
Is that a lash pool on the right?
well, that is your dock area. So it's all built up.
The infinity pool.
In the infinity pool. A few photos of the upper deck as well as your canopy. You can see the photo on the right, galvanized steel. And then more of your decking with reinforcement. Nice photo from what I call the fin up the hill between us and Main Street. Real quick update.
good.
We've been able to push through the colder weather here recently, and we've got a lot of things going on site.
Looks good up there.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a beacon on the hill.
It is.
Yeah, I might add, I know Dave's out there all the time and appreciate the update. And you can really, if you get a chance to go up there with the hard hat sometime soon, once you walk around, you can start imagining what it's going to look like. The way the trees were left on the going around the side, they did a really nice job of just keeping, the aesthetics of the hill, so to speak, and all the landscaping there. So it's really going to fit in nicely. So hopefully in the near future, we can all get a hard hat on and walk around and just talk a little bit and get a little bit more.
That's right. And the Murphy Boulevard entrance is gated off. So if you're coming in, you have to come off Main, but you can drive that all the way around. We've got it asphalted. So it's really
First
easy.
layer.
You'll know exactly what, like Dr. Saketa said, the trees are in place. That's going to be there. So nothing's changing now.
Very nice. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Questions? Good?
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. Our next item is our health insurance and dental care insurance report. Shelley.
Okay, in our health plan, we spent for the first 6 months a little over 3.5 million, which was around 47.8% of our total budget. There was a couple of things, overall, it didn't look too bad comparatively, but there's a few things I'd like to point out. In December for prescription plans, we only had one claim that came through that we paid on prescriptions. And then we did have a couple of large claims that were paid out, two claims about 87,000. So that's what made the medical go up a little bit. Are there any other questions or any questions?
And then moving on for financial statements as well.
Okay, on the financial statement, the big change that we had is the bond refinancing that took place on December 29th. And I would like to thank the board for their flexibility and letting Joe Kinder from Stiefel kind of help lead that, because he did ultimately save the district a little over 3.3 million, which was even larger than what he had anticipated. But your ability to let him be flexible on how we handled that and restructured really made a big difference there at the end of the year. And those numbers are being reflected. If we go to, Eric's got the condensed financial statement. I did try to make some little notes, put notes down at the bottom so you can tell where some of that bond refinancing did appear. The local, there's 2.8 million of premium on the bonds that we did receive, so that's in the local number. Then the other number reflects the 16.7 million, and then we did paying off the 2012 bonds of the 20 million is down under the debt service and the expenditures. The other item is we did receive 7.7 million of property taxes in December. Compared to last year, it was a little over 4.6 million. So we did see a significant increase in our property taxes that came in December this year. We had some expenditures of about 1.4 million that went out on Dover Hill that are in the December expenditure numbers. Any other questions?
Looking good. Thank you. All right, we don't have any public comments this evening. So next up, we've got the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mike, second by Riley.
I have a question. Just
Yes, sir.
number 5's been pulled, but Sarah, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but on the basis of informing the board for these overnight trips, is that in policy?
Yes.
It is.
It is in-
It is.
Out of
I
state,
couldn't find it. Okay.
out of state.
Out of
trips.
state.
Just the out of state.
Right, and this one was going to be in Omaha, so.
Part of that's to do with our liability insurance, and we try to give you a pretty comprehensive list once a year.
Mhm.
But this was one that we weren't sure about. It looked like they might be able to go. And then with other COVID protocols that were put in place, their interaction at this was going to be so limited, they determined it wasn't
Okay.
worth
Yeah.
going. But they would like to consider going next year if things are different.
And I think they're also looking to fill in that weekend with another one that's more local, so try and not lose out for the kids. So that was a positive too.
Thank you.
All right, so there was a motion by Mike and a second by Riley. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that passes. All right, next up, access control for Dover Hill.
Okay, one of the several items that are in the coordination list that would be our responsibility is access control to the building at Dover Hill. So this is on us. This was agreed upon before all the bids were even put out with the construction manager, so it's on us. So one of the things that Dave had been talking to some of the local folks and we've been looking at was a different method of getting in the building and starting with this building to see if we could look at a different type of system rather than just a regular keying system. So I'll tee that up and let Dave tell you a little bit more about it in detail.
Okay, as many of you are aware, technology has improved immensely. I used to be the key guy for the school district. And so back many years ago, we talked about moving toward access control for the district. But at that time, the cost and just the technology were behind where we wanted to be. Well, we have certainly moved forward with where we can make that accessible and usable for the school. So we're proposing to put an access control system which will allow us to audit and enter who comes, who goes, at what times. It will allow auto locking of the doors. And then one of the largest things that we'll do is during an intruder alert or a warning that this access control can automatically be kicked in from, say, the receptionist desk so that we can lock the building down so that you could contain any threat that there might be in an area that keeps our students safe. And so we put out for bid and advertised for an access control system. I believe it's 19 doors that this will affect throughout the building. Mostly the exterior, but some interior corridors that will be locked down during an intruder alert. After placing that out for bid, we are making a recommendation that we accept the bid of $40,255 from Total Electronics Communications, which happens to be a local company.
Is this a magnetic lock with the key card entrance?
Yeah, we're going with fobs. We
Yep.
decided was the better approach for what we were going to do. But yes, it will be magnetic in that with manual key override in case of any issues.
And was this part of the budget for Dover Hill?
It was part of the original inclusion in the budget, but this portion of that in the bid out and the costing of that comes under the owner contingency.
Okay, gotcha. I'd make a motion to approve what Dave is recommending here.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, motion by John, second by Derek. Discussion, please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Let's lock our doors. Next up, consideration of Missouri Southern State University Mosocaps Memorandum of Understanding.
Back in December, the board previously considered the Mosocaps program, but there's been two key developments since that consideration in December. The first is that donors have stepped up to pledge. Last count I knew, Dr. Joseph, was 36 seats toward any vacancies that we may have in terms of unused seats for the program. And then secondly, Missouri Southern State University then in turn lowered the quota for Joplin schools, which had been at 59 that we would have had to pay for whether they were filled or not, down to 36 seats to match the number of pledges that Dr. Joseph was able to procure. And so those are the two key new developments, all things else staying the same. I would like to thank the stakeholders that have pledged their support. And in your board packet on the second page, and you may want to scroll to that, Eric, if it's in the packet.
It is.
We have listed the donors to date and the number of seats that they have pledged to cover if we have any within that 36 that go unfilled. And so I want to particularly thank them. And then I'd like to also recognize Dr. Joseph for not only pledging seats himself, but spearheading the effort to procure these pledges. And with that, the district recommends approval of the Mosocaps Memorandum of Understanding as presented and attached.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the Missouri Southern Mosocaps Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you,
I'll
Riley. Motion by Riley, second by Dr. Joseph. Discussion? Please vote.
Well,
Discussion, sorry.
so this is the third time I think this has been brought up.
Probably the third time for action, and then I think we had a work
I
session
think
or
it's
two.
been on the agenda 5 different times.
Yeah, wow. It's like Groundhog Day. Okay, so I'll take some time here and walk through concerns that I have related to this. And a lot of this ties back to the data that I shared earlier from the data committee. When I look at the spend that we have as a district, we look at where we have issues. One of the things that I do believe as a board member for all of us is that we're supposed to be looking at the entire school district. And how do we use our funds? How do we financially support our kids' learning? That's what kind of like the Board of Education, for the education aspect. And what bothers me and has bothered me about this since the beginning is that it's not that it's a bad idea. And a lot of times, you separate good from great. It's just that when you take it in the context that we're somewhere between, 40 and 49% of our kids are below average, and all the effort and spend that goes into that, it just seems to me like if we were going to invest, we would really want to invest in our kids, which is thousands of kids in the grade schools, to make sure that they're at a point where they can succeed in high school and succeed beyond that. And what bothers me about this is it's such a small slice of a couple of kids, maybe, that this would affect. It just seems like it rings hollow where our efforts should be on the thousands of kids that are left behind. And that's really where our challenge is. It's not for the couple of kids that are going to go on to college anyhow. And so I've given this a lot of thought. And so when I think about that, and I think about the context of what's happened the last couple of years, and I think it's been true in every state that I've read so far, the results are coming out that, hey, look, during the pandemic, our kids lost like an entire year of education. And we've got to acknowledge that, and we have to say, hey, what are we doing for all of our kids, which is, I think, 7,500 kids district-wide? Not 30 kids or 36. And so I think that piece of learning progression, mental health, social development should be the focus of our board, not adding another program that sounds like a good thing, but affects very few people. The other thing that has troubled me is that we have Project Lead the Way, we have FTC, we have dual credits. All of those things give opportunities to all of our students, and all those programs can continue to grow. On the financial side, MSSU, they've been struggling. And I feel for them. I have a daughter that graduated from MSSU. I think it's a great school. But MSSU needs to solve what their issues are. MSSU also still has a mask policy. So if we were to approve this, we're going to send our kids right back into a masked environment, which takes you back to my first point, which is it affects kids' mental development and their social development. That's been proven. The timing of this program, when you look at it, the state of the education of our kids, and I think about the masking side of life again, it reminds me of a lady that just talked to me last week. And she said, hey, I have a son that was a sophomore when all this started. They lost the last half of their sophomore year. They lost their complete junior year. And her only point to me was, I certainly hope we're not going to shut our schools down again for his senior year and disturb 3 years of education. And that was impactful to me because when you think about it, and I'm an adult, and adults probably weathered this better. But kids, when they're developing, this is really a challenge for them. And so I think to myself, it's like, look, again, we need to put our focus on how do we repair that and have our kids go forward. When we talked about the funding the last time, and I still say, and I've said at the beginning, the funding per credit hour for this, it just doesn't pass muster. Never has. It's more expensive. And if our community wants to support this, why don't they support via scholarships for kids? and help fund it that way. That's cheaper, by the way. You get a better bang for the buck on that. The commitment to fund this from us, and I appreciate some community members stepping forward, but it still means only in case that this isn't filled, which means, again, us as a district, we're disproportionately putting a lot of money behind a couple of kids at a higher rate than if you were actually enrolled at MSSU. On this dual credit thing, and I've thought about this and I've talked to some of our teachers. Our teachers would appreciate being able to teach more dual credits and have them be compensated versus MSSU. I believe Brent pointed out once before that the schedule doesn't line up. I think you said it was 46 days that doesn't tie with our high school calendar. I don't know how that works. The idea of students driving back and forth to MSSU, I think about that. I think about kids not being supervised. All it's going to take is one bad thing happening, and the entire community will turn around us and say, you guys should have been supervising our kids during school hours. It's a point to think about. I thought it was interesting when, I think many of you had done a survey, the juniors and seniors said, hey, this program doesn't fit with my schedule. Freshmen, sophomores said, hey, maybe yes. But juniors and seniors have the hindsight of already going through how difficult it is to get their schedules lined out. I believe you and I had a conversation once. I was talking to you about, you know, when you work with young kids, how do you teach them some of the basic financial skills and get that class in front of them before they get their first job, before they get their driver's license, before they have to get insurance. And you explain to me, like, look, that would take almost impossible gymnastics to make that work in the schedule because they're so difficult to manage. And that's just us trying to control something within our own school, let alone take it outside and involve a third party on this. I also think about the financial side, and it's a spend. We're all seeing across all of our own businesses, we're seeing it across the school district, everything is an inflationary period. What concerns me is eventually, if this inflation continues and our economic base doesn't continue to grow, it puts us in the school district in a bad light. It makes us walk off a financial cliff. And so I have to always step back and say, there's a piece of this where we have to be financially prudent, understanding the world going on around us. And I don't know where the inflation stops. The last I heard, we're at a 40-year high and climbing. And that's having a ripple effect back through our school district, and it will continue. And Shelley, I'm sure, is seeing it and scratching her head and saying, how are we going to pay for this? So the other thing I think about, and I was a member of this growing up as a kid, I was part of junior achievement, really robust in the community I grew up in. I haven't heard anybody talk about how do you develop a junior achievement program here that we could get businesses involved in. And they could hire kids in the summer as a summer internship. And that's something that Joplin School District could work directly with the community on. You don't need MSSU for that, but it's an idea, but I haven't heard anything about that. And so the only other comment I would just have in closing, so I don't want to take everybody's time, is that, again, I say we have all of the kids to represent, not just a couple of them. And when I think about those thousands of kids that are struggling right now, they're below average, it makes me upset because I think about how do we help them succeed? Who's speaking for them? What voice do they have? And how do we invest in that? You know, coming out of the meeting I had with Sarah, one of the things I said was, hey, we need to find a way to fund more work in that area for our kids when they're younger. That affects all the kids, thousands of them. I'd support that yesterday because it affects everybody. And this is supposed to be, as a Board of Education, how are we educating our people, our kids, and being financially prudent while doing it? And that's why I've had an issue with this program every time it's been brought up. It's not that it's a bad idea, it just doesn't fit in the greater context of everything else we're trying to get done as a school district. I appreciate everybody listening.
I'd like to thank John for his comments. They're clearly well thought out, and I really truly respect where he's coming from, because I agree that we have work to be done in our district, and I hope that we do what we can to help those kids that need help. I don't see Mosocaps as a mutually exclusive effort. I don't think that you ignore those folks when you advance the Mosocaps program. And while there is money being pushed toward that program for those students who participate, I think that we have to to recognize that in making those efforts available to them, we're also developing relationships with people in our community and partnering with them in ways that we never have before. And doing it this way offers us the cheapest way to do it. I think that our district has looked at doing this in the past and has not been able to do it for budget reasons. And so when you know that you can terminate this particular opportunity in a very short period of time, if it's not working, we can stop. I think that the opportunity to advance it could pay huge dividends through partnerships with just generally our community that may not have, some of whom may not have been graduates of Joplin schools. We're looking for connectedness through ways beyond just athletics. I just think this is such an enormous opportunity, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the efforts of Dr. Joseph and our community partners in getting us as far as we are today, and at Missouri Southern for being willing to reduce our responsibility in that collective partnership. And so while I certainly appreciate and respect what you've said, I do support this initiative, and I hope it's very successful for everybody. And I hope that our district continues to push for those kids who are struggling, whether they're middling, whether they're in the lower part. We have a lot of work to be done, and I don't think that you necessarily, I don't look at it as we're doing this and not that. We need to do things, and if anybody has ideas, I think that the first place we start is as a community, as a collective, as a whole. That parents need to do a better job of parenting. Students need to be better at being students. We need to be better board members. Our administrators need to be better administrators. Our teachers need to be better teachers, and that doesn't cost us anything. So the challenge is for us to all do better. And that doesn't, I don't know that throwing money at kids who are not doing well is the answer. I don't know what you're throwing money at. And I think when those programs are presented to the board, they take them under consideration and probably spend the money if we knew that we could just pay money to improve student performance. But I really appreciate your time and effort on this.
I'd like to take a minute to remind the board that 100% of the CAPS programs around the country are run by school districts, not community colleges, not universities. 100% of MOCAPS programs are run by school districts. And so I agree, there's some benefit to this. There's a lot of benefits or potential benefits for this, but there are also a lot of unintended consequences when you pass something like this on to a university rather than a school district. When this thing first started, Carthage was one of the schools that was in this conversation. There's probably a really good reason why Carthage is, that they removed themselves, and that's because they have a technical program similar to what Joplin has. The schools that are a part of this program or that are committed to it are schools that do not have a Franklin Tech on their campus. So again, I think it's a great idea. I think it has great potential. I think that our school district, our administration should have taken, if this is something that we want for our kids, we should be the ones pushing for a CAPS program, not the local university. And so the unintended consequences that come from this would be, number one, you're going to have kids, I know John alluded to this, but you're going to have kids who are going to be with our community partners 2 to 3 days a week for 2 to 3 hours a day. And those community partners aren't trained as educators. They haven't taken school psychology or child development or the other types of studies that it requires to be a teacher, to be in the school systems. So where will they get their training? How will they learn how to treat or to handle students? Some will be 15 years old. Some will be 18, and anywhere in between. So that instruction or that guidance is going to come from a university, not from a school system. And I think that's not good business. I think that's risky business, in fact. So another thing, I think you're going to have fewer kids from local school districts enroll in our Franklin Tech program because of this. Because even though the programs may be different on some levels, you're going to be competing against the same type of kids. There's only so many kids that would be interested in doing dual credit type programs. And so when you limit Franklin Tech's access to our community schools kids, we're going to unintentionally harm our Franklin Tech program. I think by the same token, fewer kids from the Joplin School District, if this, if this becomes successful, are going to enroll in Franklin Tech. And if they have the opportunity and that works in their schedule. So again, it harms the Franklin Tech because they're not going to get some of our local students as well as students from around the district. And then I think the concern that I probably have the most is that if there's, and I don't remember the number, and I know the number's out there, I'm just going to throw out 100. I think it's obviously more than that. But if you have 100 kids taking dual credit and you move half of those to the Mosocaps program, you're going to take away half of the students that are enrolled in dual credit in our high school, which unintentionally is going to harm, I know John mentioned this too, some of our dual credit teachers at the high school. If there aren't enough kids to host a dual credit class, they're not going to be able to teach that in our own high school. And so they're going to lose out on some money as well. And so I just think there's potential for some great things here, but there's also several unintended consequences that I'm concerned about. I wanted to share that. So,
Thank you.
Brent, I'd like to add and appreciate everybody's input. I think after seeing the numbers from what you had done in data, my personal thought is, excuse me, we need to put more resources or whatever it is to raise those numbers, period. While the high school kids are our future, these young kids are as well. I applaud Dr. Joseph for the work that he's put into this. The question I asked when this was brought up before was, is there any way to lower the price to line things up a little better? And yes, it was by lowering the seats, but we shouldn't pay for seats that aren't used, is the way I was looking at that. And so lowering the number that we would be responsible for, yes, did lower the price, but it didn't lower the cost in a sense. I mean, I hope that's coming out correct.
Cost per person.
Per person. So I still have an issue with that, and that's not saying anything bad against Southern or that wasn't addressed. So I do still have an issue, but after seeing the numbers, I think we need to put more resources into these younger up and coming students to get them more in line to be successful, just like John said. That's kind of where I'm at on it. I'm having a hard time with this, and I know it can be very, very good, but I'm disappointed in hearing the numbers of the other students.
Anything else?
I'd like to start off with that. I think we've really had a lot of discussion about this, and everybody here this evening has brought up some really good points. And I would like to not really focus on caps as much as just the fact that I think we can be all things in this situation. There are multiple people who can win here in terms of our students. So we're looking at 36 students, I believe, in terms of the CAPS program. But we also have an ability here to work together. I'm hearing for the first time tonight us really having I think a very good conversation about some of the gaps in other parts of the school district, and I think we need to tackle those as well. And I think at different times, we focus a lot on kids here. But sometimes others get lost in the middle, and I agree that that's a concern. And I also would say that, from my research into this, a CAPS kid looks different than kids who may be in your traditional AP courses or a dual credit course as well. And a kid who may elect to go to Franklin Tech, I think you're looking at different populations here. And I think there's enough room for everybody to be involved here. So in terms of a macro vision, we can look at all these different initiatives. And then when we drill down and look at more of a micro look, we still have the ability to provide excellent opportunities for our students. And that's what I believe this is. And so Dr. Joseph's done an excellent job of really standing up for something he believes in the sense that, we have no liability here. If a seat, I think the cost is the cost. So, when we go to the store, we don't get to barter for what we buy, but we may buy less of that in the future to affect our own pocketbooks. So that's what I see us doing here. We're buying less of a product, which are the seats. But in this case, we actually have an insurance policy now that we have no situation would arise where if we were to put the money in, if we weren't having enough students, we would not be paying for seats that we didn't have students to fill. And I think that's a very good thing. So, like I said, I don't think it's a Franklin Tech versus a CAPS thing, a dual credit versus a Missouri Southern thing, a Joplin Schools versus Missouri Southern situation. I think it's something that we all can work on together. So, like I said, thank you, Dr. Joseph, for your efforts, and you've done a great job. And thank you for everyone sharing their concerns tonight, and I'm appreciative of that.
Thank you, guys. I'll go ahead and call the question. It was a motion made by Riley, second by Dr. Joseph. Please vote.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
No. Okay, motion does not pass. Next up, staff development opportunities. Dr. Mwangi.
Yes, and I'll have Sandra come up. My name is on this, but this in all reality is definitely a team effort on leadership's part. Eric's going to bring up a presentation. And Eric, I apologize. I realize I sent you a PDF and not the PowerPoint, so I am sorry about that. This conversation really started with us looking on the certified side of how we can provide timely, relevant professional development that is really thinking outside the box. Alongside this comes a teacher retention grant that we applied for. We were awarded through DESE. Alongside the ripple effects of ESSER and what that has been able to provide us financially as a district. So on, as we kind of go through, and I'll go through it, Eric, you can follow along as I kind of get there. So there's really two parts, because what this ended up doing was bringing the classified alongside the certified. So that's why I present this to you as a totality of the leadership, but I'll first address the certified. So we talked about this concept of a micro-credential. It's very predominant in the business corporate side of the world, but not so much on the education side. And so what we're looking at is a self-paced micro-credential offering for our certified staff members. And so on the next slide there, it's professional development that's timely for what we're doing. So as we talk with data committee, as we talk with our teachers, as we talk with our principals, as we work to get curriculum developed and get that lined out, what are those big key pieces? We're a large district. And so getting a common message in a very large district has its challenges. So this self-paced micro-credential provides autonomy and some options for our certified staff, but it also allows us an opportunity to highlight some really key areas. So some options, we've looked at two things, one being some vendor-approved courses, and then kudos to the Learning Service Department, Chris, Libby, even Saida. They have really contributed to developing a lot of this content. So the different offerings, Canvas training. So these are courses that our staff would take. It's a course that they would go through. It's meaningful. It's rich in content. It's not just write a paragraph and here's an extra duty pay for that. It is definitely meaningful work. Fundamental 5, we have a lot of non-traditional teachers coming to our classrooms. That is only going to increase. Those are instructional strategies that are very fundamental that can help us be effective in the classroom. We are approaching some major writing discussions as a district in the curriculum world. So there's a writing revolution, as well as what we're calling the District Successful 6 in the curriculum world. Basic learning intention success criteria, the new priority standards from the state. So just some hot topics, if you will, that our staff would choose which one they would like to go through. Their immediate supervisor signs off on that. They have a time period of which they complete it. And then there's an extra duty pay to incentivize them for completion of that work. So this is outside of contract time. allowing an opportunity for them to earn extra duty, but it's also giving us the benefit as a district of really investing in our people. I think when, I've shared it in the board update, and we met with board officers regarding this, and that's, I think, what Jeff had said. He goes, we're investing in our people. I said, absolutely. So when we reflect on this, we don't want to just stop at the certified side. So we have had classified, if you want to scroll to page 7, we've also had classified, and anybody can feel free to contribute, but we have looked at how to provide professional opportunities to our classified staff. It's a little bit different. So we're looking at little chunks of opportunity, but they could maximize how much they would receive an extra duty pay equivalent to certified. So it's a very equitable opportunity. One of the opportunities would be a peer seminar that we're going to host in February, pending your approval this evening, as well as, transportation, having some very specific training, or our paraprofessionals that we're working to retain, nurses. So we've put a lot of thought into it. What we're proposing tonight is the year 1 plan, something we want to get through this semester. We've worked with finance on the back end. This is 100% of employees will have this opportunity. So this is a pretty massive project, but we truly believe that it's an opportunity for us to invest in our people, provide them some extra duty pay. At the same time, it's timely and it's relevant professional development for them outside of their typical work days. So with that, I would propose to the board this evening, I think the action item of how it's written, the certified side, it is a $2,000 extra duty pay stipend upon completion of their course. The classified side, they will be eligible for up to 8 units that we're calling, each unit being $250 a unit. So if they want to take 1 unit, they can just do 1. If they want to do all 8 and do several, they can do up to 8. That would also equal that $2,000 pay. And this would be for 100% of Joplin Schools employees, regular employees, full-time, excluding substitutes, that sort of thing. It would not include them. So these would be our regular employees in the district.
And Sarah, is this funded by an ESSER grant?
So it is partially funded on the certified side. It's kind of what I would consider the startup fund of the teacher retention grant. That's $283,000. The remaining balance of that is going to be paid through, and I let Shelley speak to that, general operating, but the general operating is there because of the benefits that we're utilizing with ESSER. It's just moving some money. And so it is in our general operating.
Yes.
We received $8 million of
We
ESSER.
received, 8.5 million has come in this year for ESSER, which was recoding employees' salaries from last year that was paid out of our operating. So that's kind of like how we're getting that. I mean, there's money here that we can use, not have to use ESSER. When you start using ESSER funds, that ties that federal money to different things, and there's a whole lot of hoops and stuff like that. So that's how we've freed up.
Something else you want to add? Yeah, and we have, other districts have given extra duty pays, incentive bonus, whatever you want to name it. This has been something that we have been talking to with JESP, JNEA. It has been an appetite of our administrative team this whole time. What we have tried to come to is something relevant, meaningful, and impactful for the system, to where we really can wrap our arms around classified and certified collectively. And so those have ranged anywhere from $400 to $1,650 within our immediate area of just Southwest Missouri. And our rate, and we had put on there, Joplin Schools is proposing a higher amount, but with rigorous requirements to reach the maximum threshold of $2,000.
I make a motion to approve the staff development opportunities.
Second.
All right. Motion by Riley, second by Michael.
Sarah, I had a question.
Discussion, please.
Yes, sir.
So we're just approving the year 1 of this.
Yes.
But it's a 2-year program.
Our recommendation would be to give you an example, my plan and our team's plan is to come back in June, give you a reflection. We'll have some, surveys and different things attached to this work, to come back in June and share with you what year 2 may look like, but you would not be voting on year 2 tonight. We want you to know ahead of time, if this is super successful, we see a great opportunity. Rick, we talked about there's a safe serve certification. Eric has talked about a JAM certification. There's some different professional investments with our people that we have looked into, but that would definitely be phase 2 if this was successful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think the part that really struck me was each person gets to make their own choice of what's most important to them. And we can value that choice by giving them up to $2,000. So I appreciate the effort and the creativity to not just give it away, but to do something that gets something from both of us. We make them a more valuable employee, and they become a more valuable person in their chosen field.
And this is obviously how we're turning this around, pending your approval tonight. We'll meet with principals tomorrow, go through the training of what this actually looks like to get it deployed. But there is a strong appetite at the future of what this could provide us, and where we can go, even bringing some ideas back to you in June of how to invest in some professional development. So lots of potential with this.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, we'll call the question. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
All right.
I talked the whole time. So
Next
I brought
up,
you up so you can talk.
Shelley, we've got
I think
Council
Again.
Yeah, I think that's me again. So this
Sorry.
is, and Steve is actually here. He probably could speak to this better than I, but this is for 4 CAT simulators in the amount of $94,834.76. And this, again, you're familiar with FTC with enhancement grants, 75% enhancement grant funding for that. Anything you want to add, Steve?
They're like gaming consoles, but they're going to use them now. Yes, she uses a lot better one, but 200,000 pieces. First time fish department, Air Force, all these simulators, training people, paper, that's what I'm doing.
Well, the heavy equipment CAT is really the predominant one out there, so that I'm glad it's CAT because that makes the most sense.
I'd make a motion to approve the purchase of the CAT
Second.
heavy equipment operator
all
simulators.
right, motion by Derek, second by John. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, that motion passes. Okay. Graphic design fundamentals.
I have a little train
All right.
here, 3 in a row. Mr. Parsons is here this evening. And I told him I apologize. Typically, we try to put these at the very beginning, and I told him he was number 5. So thank you for your patience. But each year we kind of look to see what course adjustments and things need to happen. I will tell you, Mr. Parsons has been very active of trying to think outside the box and find a way to engage his students at the high school in the journalism department. And so he has worked through several conversations between the high school staff and Chris and myself. We came to a big powwow, if you will, with counselors and Chris and him and myself to discuss a new course offering that we're recommending. He is adjusting some current offerings that he's looking at in order to add this. So I'll let him kind of give you insight into how he's kind of come to graphic design fundamentals.
Oh my. Okay. So I currently teach an intro class called Intro to Journalism. It's a full year class, and primarily I get freshmen. What I found is over the years, some of the skills that kids are coming in with are different than the past. They're more visual, more creative, and less on the writing piece. So to get more people in my program, more people interested in that type of stuff, and wanting to branch it off into 2 different paths. So if kids like to take photography, they like to write, they're in one category. If they like to do graphic design, be creative like that, they're on the other side. So basically what it does is it branches kids in 2 different directions, maximizes the numbers, maximizes the kids that get an opportunity to do this type of thing. Plus, I think graphic design is very important in this day and age. So back in the day, if you wanted to create something, a visual aspect, you had to have something like Photoshop or some super high-tech computer or some kind of really fancy training. But now things are moving online. So like web platforms like Canva, Adobe Spark, to where people can really create things on their phone, Chromebooks, anything like that. You have any kind of computer, you can be a graphic designer. And I think it would just be a really interesting opportunity for our kids to be able to all come in and have that skill, because that's a skill they're going to be able to have throughout life. They go to college, or they work a job. There's always going to be that guy that's going to make the posters, that's got to make the flyers, that's got to make the things that are going on social media. Come to this, do this. You got to see it. You got to believe it. You got to be there. Yeah.
So just one question I
Yeah.
have is, I see it's a freshman level course. How did you decide as a freshman level versus a different level course?
It is freshman level in the sense of typically who is in it. It would not keep a sophomore, junior, senior from
Right.
having the opportunity to take it. It's typically freshmen who take that elective, because the other electives he offers at the junior, senior levels, that's when you get into school publications. And so it's not, and that may be misinformed on my part of how that's written. So it's freshmen who typically take it, but it does not keep a sophomore, let's say, who came in and wanted to take that. I think the huge thing with this course, we're moving to the semester elective option instead of a full year, which his current elective is a full year, which is why we're able to do this and not add FTEs or staffing. He's kind of taking that
Splitting it,
full
year
and
and splitting it into
focusing
two
it
offerings.
more. And a lot of this is also in response to just what he's experiencing with his students and how to help kind of build his program of what they're after. And if you remember, this goes back to policy updates as well, that we're bringing all new courses to board for approval. So
I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, I would move that we approve the new course at the high school, graphic design fundamentals, and thank you for spearheading that.
Thank you.
All right, so motion by Brent, second by Riley. Discussion? Thank you for being able to split it in two. That's great. I was going to ask you to split every other class we've got, so we don't need twice as many.
Right.
But no, I understand the
Yes.
concept now, so thank you. All right, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, that motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, now Shelley.
Okay. Accounts payable. Tonight, the bill list looks a little scary. It's $12,629,871. But we did meet early in December, so we have 3 different bill lists that hit this one. So the bulk of that is
Couple of
what it
pages.
is. Last year,
Yep.
at this time, it was $9,795,000, but we do have, there was about, around $2.6 million that we paid to Crossland with Dover Hill in that number, so.
Yep.
Any
I'd make a
questions?
motion to pay our bills.
All right,
Second.
motion by Derek, second by John. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Sandra, nursing supplies for Joplin Schools.
Yes, we were able to get $600,000 supplemental funding from the Missouri Division of Health and Senior Services for nursing supplies and materials. And so tonight I am bringing 2 POs totaling $82,500 to you, asking you to approve that for masks, the disposable gowns, gloves, a plethora of nursing materials out of the grant that we received.
I make a motion to approve nursing supplies for the Joplin School District.
I'll second.
Motion by Riley, second by Brent. Please vote.
I have
Yes.
just a comment if I can.
Yep, sure, go, sorry.
I'm in the wholesale business, and the price of masks are quickly becoming, you can't give them away by the truckload. So I would be hesitant to spend any money on masks right now, because the ceiling is, the floor is falling out
Yeah.
on them. I just hold a little bit, but you're going to see a mass, basic giveaway, kind of like they did with the hand sanitizer. I think I went into one of the Staples or something there, like a case was 49 cents, but it's going to change like that. So that's the only piece I'd say, just hold on that, because that price is going to fall dramatically.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. All right, next up, repair and maintenance on the Franklin Tech greenhouse.
So the greenhouse we have at FTC is about 8 years old now. And there were a few things, and Steve has more detail about it when we put it in, that we would have liked to have a little bit different or added to it. But there's a lot of maintenance that's needed now, and you can see motors, fan motors, roof vents. And you can imagine if you have, it's a very big greenhouse, by the way, that puts out the kids put out a lot of flowers, a lot of different plants throughout the year. So it's in desperate need of some repair and some things we would like to leverage with the enhancement grant coming from DESI. And so Steve, you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Basically, we're just trying to get it back up to pre-tornado conditions. The old greenhouse we had a cooling system on it, it had bug screens and things. Those things all got cut and dropped when we built this new one because they was trying to trim corners and cut things out. So we get those things back in there, and that allows us to run that greenhouse through the first part of the school year and this last part of the school year, especially through the summer months. Right now, we can't run it through the summer months or those first and end part because it's way over 100 degrees in there, and it just kills everything instantly.
Yeah.
A lot of our kids, all of the ag kids have to have a supervised ag experience. And since they're urban kids, they don't have horses and cows and rabbits or whatever they're running with. So a lot of them resort to plants of some kind for their project. So it's vital that we be able to use that through the summer months and those early and later months in the school year. So,
How many students do you have in the programs there? In the ag?
In the ag programs altogether, a couple hundred.
Okay.
Wow.
Make a motion to approve the repair and maintenance of the Franklin Technology Center greenhouse.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Riley, second by Derek. In discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. Okay. Policy updates for first reading.
Yes, Mr. Jordan did a very good synopsis of the three that we have before you. One talking about the shortened filing period for board election. The other clarifying that school districts cannot use public funds to support a ballot measure or a particular candidate. And then finally, the one that created a new policy for behavioral health assessments that we've been doing that anyway. So we would recommend approval of these.
Excellent.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Derek made the motion, Brent second. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Okay, just before we do the plus deltas, make sure we got everybody okay. Dr. Moss, you want to share something?
I do have something to share. And I wrote some things down so that I would be sure and keep my composure as I shared this. It has been my supreme honor to serve as your superintendent. The move to Joplin has been a wonderful opportunity, both professionally and personally. My husband Greg and I would like to thank the community for opening its arms to us and quickly assimilating us as one of your own. The warmth and the love that you've given us is a treasure to us both. After much thought and prayer, I have determined that it is time for me to retire, effective September 30th, 2022. I am honored that starting June 30th, the board has seen fit to retain my service for an extra 3 months in order to ease the transition of Dr. Carrie Saketa as superintendent of Joplin Schools. Dr. Saketa has been an integral part of our leadership team. He has the trust and the confidence of Eagle Nation. I am thrilled to know that the good and important work of this district will continue under his leadership. Just as Dr. Ritter did for me when I arrived in Joplin, I will do all in my power to see that the transition for Dr. Saketa is as smooth and seamless as possible. My best wishes to the board, to all of Eagle Nation for continued success.
Thank you. Thank you. So for those that tuned in to the end, for those that didn't, it's like the Chiefs game. I mean, even the best. So Dr. Saketa, anything you want to share?
Well, I can't say anything, but I'm honored and I'm humbled by the opportunity. to serve the students and the staff and the community and our parents in this new role. I come to Joplin as an educator 20 years ago, and I've had nothing but great experiences in Joplin. And Joplin's been very good to me and my family. I can't thank Dr. Moss enough for all the help that she's given me and our team. We are going to miss her dearly after she's gone here on a daily basis from her duties here. Every day we do what we can to use all our resources and all our help and each other, expertise to do the best we can for our students. And her leadership has been outstanding, and we miss that a lot. I want to thank the board for the confidence and opportunity that you bestowed on me, and I will do everything I can to work as hard as I can with the team that we have. We have excellent teachers. We have great support staff all over the district. I'm so excited about our administrative team and who we have, and to engage our parents and continue the work that Dr. Moss has put forth, and to just work hard every day with you and the board to make good decisions and do the best we can, and really strive to just look at what we do on a daily basis and win every day. Just try to win every day with what our plans are. And then at the end, we're going to get the results we want. And I appreciate the opportunity. Excuse me.
Congratulations. All right. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Brent.
Plus deltas?
Oh, sorry. Plus deltas. Let's go with the plus deltas.
Well, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but, I am, shocked and, that this Mosocaps didn't pass. Want to apologize to the administration for what the board has done to them for the past several months. First it was, do we have interest? So what did the administration do? They spent endless hours doing surveys, talking to students, and found that we did have interest. We had double, I think, what Derek had mentioned, the, 100, said, well, if we had 120, and I don't know what the final number was, that we had 200 plus kids. Then the next concern at another meeting was, well, we're going to pay for 59 spots. Well, so, tried to resolve that, working with Riley, we're able to cut those spots down to 36 spots. And then it was I knew there was still a concern about paying for unused spots. That was also voiced at meetings. Then we raised money to cover spots that were not, if they weren't filled, they were going to be paid. Then it comes up, well, why don't we administer this through Joplin schools? What we found was the cost to do that would be far exceed what it would be to do this through Mosocaps. So I feel like all these concerns and all the work that the administration does has just been jumping through hoops, but never really got there. And I don't know what the next hoop would have been, but I feel like that we put the administration through a lot of, unneeded work, because every time there was a voiced problem, and then a lot of these other negative, what about Franklin Tech? What about well, I think all these things were answered over and over, and all these concerns were addressed in other meetings. So I just have to say I'm very disappointed. I'm sorry the administration put out all the effort and the work to try to push this over the finish line, and it never got there. But, maybe it's going to be a great thing. Maybe Webb City and Carl Junction are going to exceed, and it's going to be a great program. Or maybe it'll fail, and maybe we did the right thing. No one has a crystal ball. But, very disappointed.
Thank you, Mike.
I have two pluses I want to share. One, I think having the new course offerings at the high school, I think that's a great thing. Those are obviously steps in the right direction. I want to commend the work that was put into that. And then also, I know some of our teachers feel like it may have come a year or two late, but kudos to the money going to our staff for professional development. I think they're going to be very pleased that they may have waited a year longer than the area districts have, but this is going to be meaningful money, and I'm sure it'll be much appreciated. So, huge plus.
Plus, I'd call out is the construction progress at Dover Hill. If you haven't been out there to see it, it's coming out of the ground. It's going to be great when it's done. Love to see the progress they've been able to make, even with the cold weather we've had recently. And also that bond refinance restructure, that's a lot of money. That's $3.3 million back to the school district. So well done on that. That's great that we got that completed. It's sizable.
Two pluses for the evening. The first one is, I think it'll come to everybody later, but there was a great deal of strong support in the room to retain and promote Dr. Saketa to be our next superintendent. And it's a great show of confidence and a job well done for his work for over many years here in Joplin. So I commend the board for doing that, and it's now our job to support him as best we can in his new venture as our superintendent of schools. The second one, in terms of a plus, is for Dr. Moss. I think that you've been underrated here since you've been here, and you've done a lot of good work. You've built buildings, you've got bond issues passed, you've worked with our stakeholders, you've stabilized things, you've continued the good work that was done by your predecessor, Dr. Ritter, and maintained that continuous growth here in the district. So you have been excellent as well, and I don't want anybody to be in a situation where we're not commending Dr. Moss for her good work and her thoughtful comments tonight. I agree in terms of a delta. Dr. Joseph did a lot of work for our community. He's a well-respected individual here in the community. I will miss both Sherrick and Mike as they begin their next transition and leaving the board, but because they brought a lot of value to us, and that was highlighted tonight with your efforts. So although it didn't go as you planned, we commend you for those.
Thank you.
The micro-credentialing, again, there was a push to give money away, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but to get some value on both sides of that equation, I mean, that's tremendous because we're making our people more important, more valuable, more knowledgeable, and we're investing. And that's the way I looked at it, is we're investing in our team as opposed to, here's a check because you showed up. And that doesn't take away from those people that showed up, but those people want to better themselves and they have a choice of how they want to do that. So great idea of coming up with a good way to incentivize and appreciate and value our employees.
Like I say, thank you, Dr. Moss, for your service to the district, and thank you, Carrie, for accepting. So,
And one last thing, in 7 minutes, the Joplin Eagles boys basketball team should tip off at Joplin High School.
That's why we had to close early.
Yep, I'll be there, so I invite anybody else here this evening to join me. It's always nice to have board members there.
All right, let's hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Derek and John, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes, we're adjourned.